All right.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you. I love the little scene with the bridge. That is cool.
It's actually I'll tell you a quick story. So I had seen this in a magazine, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it just spoke to me. You see something, it's just like, oh my gosh, it just speaks to me. So I saw it in a magazine. I was looking for the print, and I finally found it, and it was in a frame or whatnot. I'm like, no, I'm not spending that. I'll eventually, maybe one day. Well, so then my wife and I were down in Fort Lauderdale at IKEA, and I was walking through, and they had this giant canvas of this print. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to have that. So I bought it. My wife is like, where in the world are you going to put that? Because it's almost floor to ceiling,
Right.
huge canvas. And so the only place we had at the moment was over our bed in our bedroom. And so for 5 years, you walk into our bedroom, and this was the wall over our bed. So when we moved, I guess almost 4 years ago, um, she goes, "You are not hanging that over our bed." And I'm like, "Well, where am I going to put it?" She goes, "You have an office now. Put it in your office." And I'm like, "That would make a great backdrop." And so it's my backdrop. It's like I said, it's almost floor to ceiling.
Where is it? What is it a picture of?
So it's actually, I thought it was Costa Rica until a couple of months ago. I was doing a mediation with a couple. It's actually Vietnam.
Really?
Yeah, and so the wife goes, "Oh my gosh, that's where I'm from." I'm like, "Where is this?" And she goes, "It's Vietnam." I'm like, "Really?" She goes, "Yeah." She goes, "Can I get a picture of that for my background for when I do my meetings?" So I got up on the other side of my desk. I took a picture of it with my camera because she was like, "That's a great virtual background." But she goes, "But your chair, I can always see your chair." It's like, because it's not a virtual background. And so I actually took a picture for her, sent it to her, and she was able to then pop it right up, except, it's a virtual background for her.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's actually Vietnam. But for a mediator, I was like, be the bridge. I'm like, we're going to try to get from point A to point B. I'm going to help you, cross this bridge. Hopefully, we're not throwing anybody over the bridge. We're not jumping off the bridge. And so, yeah, it's just a cool background.
Yeah, that's cool.
Hi, my name is Sydney Mitchell.
Hi, I'm Matthew Brickman, Florida Supreme Court mediator. Welcome to the Mediate This podcast, where we discuss everything mediation and conflict resolution.
So, welcome to the show, Ted.
Oh, glad to be here, man. So happy to be here talking to you on a Sunday morning.
Yeah, so you're a criminal attorney, plus you've got to do
You know,
experience.
that's a great point. And you know, when I have a person, let's say a felony DWI, you know, we
Right.
have to put the same Intoxilock. That's what we call them down here. Intoxilock is
And
the company
Toxalock. Yep.
that has the majority of the. I bet they have a 80% market share down here in
Right.
Texas and the Houston area. So Intoxilock, they're good for what they're there for. I mean, I don't think you could bring it to court as a scientific, as forensically valuable to convict the person of a DWI, but you can definitely use it to tell if they're consuming alcohol, you know, when they're not supposed to. Because let's just say if you're on a bond, you know, if you're on bond for DWI down here, you can't consume any alcohol. So if it's showing up,
Got it.
you know, that's bad enough. You know, and I think that, you know, I don't see it used that much in my family law practice,
Okay.
but it's actually a great idea because you can monitor, you know, and I think it's accurate in the sense of what you're talking about. You know, I agree with you. It's a great tool to use. You know, not infallible, but that's not
Yeah.
what you need in what you're talking about. You're just trying to prove a point and keep kids safe.
Right. And like the ones I'm trying to think of the name, it'll come to me, but like one of the ones that we usually recommend, they've got two different programs. One where they've got to brief, you know, we set it up, they've got to brief constantly, like with or without the kids, they're not allowed to consume alcohol at all. Then we've
Right.
got ones where then it's like, look, you just can't be intoxicated when you have the kids. So we build it
Right.
in to where, like, okay, you know, they have to breathe 24 hours prior to their time sharing starting, and then morning, afternoon, and evening during their time sharing. And then if they want to go binge drink when they don't have the kids, that's on them. Like, look, they're over
Right.
21. If they want to drink, they fine, they can legally do it. Just we're trying to create a protective you know,
Yeah.
mechanism to keep the kids safe. But you know, sometimes we get you know, and I've actually, you know, as a mediator, they bring them to me in mediation, or we're negotiating, and they've got false positives. You know, and
Hmm.
it's not always 100%, but it's they seem to be pretty good. And yeah, they're not using them to, you know, for like bonds and stuff. We're just using them for
Sure.
as a time sharing safety mechanism.
Yeah. And that's perfect. And that's you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's accomplishing its goal. And we do that very similar here. You know, no alcohol 8 hours before your visitation. You know, no alcohol during
Okay.
visitation. Where
Okay.
on the cases where there's an issue, same kind of thing you're doing. And you know, yeah, it's very prophylactic. It accomplishes its goal. It
Yeah.
really does.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
think about it. If you're the type of person that has to, you know, be monitored like that, you know, if somebody brings it up, you probably do need the monitoring.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, if it rises to that level, we've got to have some sort of mechanism in place, you know,
Yeah.
and there's the interlock. I don't know if they, you know, how those work versus the ones that sometimes we use, but you know, some of them connect wirelessly to your phone. Some of them have
Hmm.
built their own built-in technology. Some of them have the facial recognition. So like, I couldn't give it to you and then do
Hmm.
it. It's like, no, it's facial recognizing me. That, you know, they've got their subscriptions and stuff trying to
Sure.
help, you know, and even more than I remember years ago, like they had the mechanisms like just to drive, right? Like you have to
Hmm.
blow
Right.
to unlock, you know, to unlock the steering column so you can drive the car. But this isn't about driving a car. This is about creating safety during time sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. And the same kind of stuff we have here in Texas, you know, all the ones for the driving, you know, they all take a picture because, you know, and the majority of the people that I represent, especially on the DWIs, for example, um, you know, they may have one car. And, you know, if the wife is going to drive you know, if the husband's the one charged with the DWI, the wife may drive that car. So
Right.
we have to take a picture of who's, you know, doing it. But, you know, the one
Oh,
thing,
okay.
and the way it works, you know, here is the company, the minute you blow and it's over, you know, there's an email being sent to the court.
Yes.
And I'm probably in front of the judge that week explaining why my guy's consuming alcohol and trying to justify why he should remain on bond.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and that happens regularly.
Wow. Wow.
But you know, from mediation, a person that's an alcoholic, it's a tough, a tough get away from alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I read somewhere that the average, like, because people are, it's a tough disease to overcome. And, rehab after rehab after rehab after rehab.
Mhm.
And it was somewhere years ago. I think it was Dr. Drew Pensky was he had a show that I absolutely love, Celebrity Rehab, years and years and years ago. And it was good. And I think it was Dr. Drew that had said it's like the average person, like it's over 10 times in rehab before they finally kick it. I mean, it's tough to overcome. It's not just, oh, I've gone once or twice and yeah, I was able to do it. No, it's a hard demon to get off your shoulder.
It is. And you know what? And for you probably doing the mediation, you probably feel more like I do. I don't look at an alcoholic any different than I look at a cancer survivor.
Right.
It's a disease,
Yeah.
and, and it's so judgmental and so harsh to look at an alcoholic as a weak person that just, can't get their life straight. It's not that easy, people. It
Yeah.
really isn't. And, you know, when you do think those things, it just shows your ignorance of alcoholism,
Right.
and until you really understand it, yeah, they have as much chance of taking care of that as I do, you know, dealing with prostate or some kind of cancer like that. It's the same exact concept.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so family law. How much family law do you do?
About a third of my practice.
Okay. All right. And so, because you had mentioned like sex cases, what do you do in there? Is that family law or is that criminal law
Oh,
or both?
believe it or not, it
It
bleeds
sort of
over a
bleeds.
lot.
It bleeds.
Yeah, so many of my criminal law cases bleed into the family cases. A lot of times, I mean, the common thing I see where they really bleed in is let's just say I'm involved in a sex case. And a lot of times, unfortunately, it seems like it's the guy doing more of the problems. And maybe he marries a lady that has children. Somehow or another, he's abusing one of the children.
Right.
See that a lot. And that immediately turns into a family law case more times than not. You know how that goes. So that's kind of where that comes in. That's where, where I really see the bleed in between the sex cases and the family law. Because obviously, the average person, wants that, that's a line that we can't go back from. That.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody inherently knows that. And it should be kind of.
Yeah.
I'm as forgiving a human being as you can find on the planet, but there's certain things, that it's tough to go back from.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because I work with a lot of attorneys that are criminal attorneys as well as family attorneys, and a number of them have told me years and years ago. They said, you know what the difference between criminal law and family law is? They said criminal law, you meet really bad people on their best behavior. And in family law, you meet really good people on their worst behavior.
It's so true.
Yeah, and like in criminal law, they're like you could get a win for someone, and you were the greatest person on the planet. Like, for example, like a DUI or something, like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. In family law, you can get a win and it's still you suck because you didn't win everything. And it's like, well, you're not gonna win everything. And it's like, so much of it is just managing expectations, right?
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, you're hitting the nail on the head. Our criminal clients are so much more appreciative.
Yeah.
And, they respect the battle. They respect what we're doing for them. Like you said, you cannot please the majority of your family law clients. You just can't.
Yeah.
And I try to start out with the premise that if either side is that happy, the system probably didn't work in family law.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And they can't grasp that. It's tough because they come in there, unfortunately, so many people in family law want their pound of flesh. You know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what really makes it tough. If,
Yeah.
every now and again, I'll have somebody come in very realistic and kind of giving and, but more times than not, no.
Yeah. I had a guy, I had a guy. Oh my gosh. I was actually shocked. He'd gotten online and left me this horrible review. And I was like, who is this guy? Like, I'm like, who is it? So I went and looked him up. Exactly what we're talking about. This was a paternity matter. So this guy had no legal rights. He never married the mom, had no legal rights to the child at all, under any circumstance. And she was not the greatest of moms and people. She had some criminal problems, right? And so in mediation, he was represented by a phenomenal attorney. She was represented by a phenomenal attorney. And he actually, before Florida in 2023, there's a rebuttable presumption of equal time sharing now. So in a paternity matter pre-2023, it was like the most you might be able to get is maybe 40%. If you could get 50, that was pretty awesome.
Right.
This guy got shared parental responsibility, so equal decision making and equal time sharing, and the mother waived child support. So this guy's got 50-50 with his kid, no child support, 50-50 decision making. And because the mother still has equal and he didn't get majority, I suck. His attorney sucks. She sucks. And it's like, what? And so he goes online leaving all this negative about his attorney and about me. And it's like, just like we're talking, it's like, you just can't please him. It's like you got a win beyond what a judge would have ever given you. And you're still unhappy because you didn't beat her into the ground. Whereas you started off not even having the legal leg to stand on because you were not legally adjudicated the father.
Wow. You know what? That's a new one on me. I haven't seen you guys, the mediators, being beat up with the reviews yet. I know we get beat up around the clock.
Yeah.
But I have yet to see that. I mean, that's so crazy. I mean, I can understand somebody getting mad if you can't find a settlement, but once you get a settlement, shame on them.
I know. Well,
oh my God.
Especially you get a settlement with an attorney. Like,
right.
I'm a neutral. I don't have a dog in this fight. I had one recently, Dad. It was interesting. The mother filed to set aside the agreement, claiming that I told her this and I told her this and and she puts in her petition, the mediator told me, and the mediator told me, and the mediator told me, and the mediator told me, right? Well, she was 100% correct. But you've got to understand the context. They didn't want to be in the same room. So we're in caucus. She didn't have an attorney. The father had an attorney. So what is my job as a mediator? To facilitate the conversation, to facilitate the information. So did I tell her? Yes, I'm relaying messages going, well, he says, and his attorney says, what do you say? Okay, and I take it back. So we get the whole thing done, and she files a complaint going, well, the mediator told me, and the mediator told me. Well, of course I told you. There's nobody else to talk to you. You didn't have an attorney, and I'm having to relay messages, and I'm going, oh my gosh. Like, did you not pay attention to the mediation opening where I said my job is to facilitate the communication and help you negotiate? But yeah, so sometimes in family law, even the mediator gets beat up and it's like, you just can't win. But
have you found it's getting worse?
in what sense getting worse?
People are just meaner.
Well, yeah. Okay. So here's what I've noticed as a mediator, and I do a lot of mediations. So for example, I'll tell you how. When I say a lot, I'll just tell you. So last year, so 2024, there are 365 days in a year. There's 151 actual calendar work days. If you take out the weekends, you take out the holidays, and if somebody would take a 2-week vacation like most people do, there's 151 actual calendar work days. Okay. I did 217 mediations.
Wow.
And the year before, 238. So I'm busy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I have seen is, at least in Florida, about 20% of my business is pro se, no attorneys at all.
Wow.
Now, of those, 100% settle. 100%. When there's no attorneys involved, they're like, look, we want to get through this. Help us get through this. And yeah, we want to be done. We're not still fighting, right? Of the other 80%, what's interesting is a lot of it, Ted, goes to the attorney. Because I remember I remember my first day of law school. And I remember they told us, we're going to teach you how to fight. You've got to win. There is no second place. Now, I was already a certified mediator, and I'm going, no. We can make a win-win. And they're like, no, attorneys, no, there's no, like, you're going to win or you're going to lose. There's a declared winner. There's a declared loser. But they said, you've got 2 jobs. 2 of your most important jobs is, number 1, educate your client on the law. And number 2, manage their expectations.
Mm-hmm.
As a mediator, those 2 I see fail all the time, because people will come into mediation with their attorneys and you read the pleadings and they're going, we want sole decision making, we want majority time sharing. And it's like, but the law says, the statute says, the court shall order, it's shared, and the court says there's a rebuttable presumption of 50-50. And if you want to overcome the rebuttable presumption, there's 20 factors in the statute. You have to hit all 20 or it's 50-50. Well, so why would you even put that in a pleading? Especially when you have no allegations. Like, you're not saying they're abusive, they're drunks, they've got a history of DUIs, they've got criminal. No, I'm the mom. Manage the client's expectations. And when there's not a management of expectations, they come in asking for things, and then you're fighting to get them to 0, get them to neutral of this is what the statute says. The problem, though, is when the attorneys don't manage the client's expectations in mediation, the attorney is now having to backtrack and going, well, but yeah, you know what? The mediator's right. If we look at the statute, it does say, why didn't you manage their expectations from the beginning? Because here's the problem. Now the clients have unrealistic expectations, and they're starting to lose faith in their advocate.
Oh, absolutely.
Which then causes them to have unrealistic expectations, fight every step of the way, maybe even not resolve and go in front of a judge. And even when a judge goes, it's shared parental and 50-50, oh, the judge didn't like me. My attorney was awful. Like everybody's bad. When everybody is not bad. And I think that's where people are behaving worse. It's because they have unrealistic expectations from the beginning.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing. So yes, people are getting worse, but I think it's because they have unrealistic expectations. I think you can look at our political environment. You have unrealistic expectations. If you, like, a democracy is where you have 2 different sides, and it's okay to have 2 different sides, and we're going to have conversations, and we're going to look at your point of view, and then you're going to look at my point of view, but we're still going to coexist. When you say, I'm right and you're wrong, and there's no chance of you becoming right, therefore I'm good and you're bad, we've demonized everybody. And yeah, society is getting worse. But again, I think it goes to, well, wait. Let's have the conversation. Let's manage expectations. It's okay to have a different point of view. A point of view is healthy. saying that your point of view is the only point of view, well, that's a problem.
Right. I agree. I mean, it's, there's nothing wrong with like reasonable debate, where you respectful debate, great. But nowadays, it it turns into, what it turns into. And it's politics. I mean, I don't know that the chasm in politics will be taken care of in our lifetime. I don't see how it could be,
It never has. From day one, it never has. You can look at, you can go through, religious books. You can go through historical books. There's always been this fight for power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it's been this, bad, this venomous.
Yeah.
You can go back. We've all heard the stories of Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan, drinking scotch every Friday. I mean, there's no chance of anything like that again.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, you would be persona non grata in your party if you, even, if one of the other side was on fire, if you hosed them off, you'd be persona non grata. It's just, it's horrible.
Well, and I mean, right now you can look at somebody like Elon Musk. Elon Musk was amazing. Green Deal, electric. Oh my gosh, he's amazing. And now swastikas everywhere. You're going, what? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
It's like, but one person can like make you completely change your entire point of view. But again, I think it goes back to managing expectations. You know what's interesting? So I've done some continuing education through the years, similar to you, except I have not done more degrees. What I have found is specialized executive education courses that have, where we're taking like the best of the best elite people from around the world, different cultures, different belief systems, different organizations, and bringing them together. So, for example, in 2019, I did a negotiation mastery program at Harvard Business School.
Oh, nice.
And it was incredible. I mean, people from all over the world, bankers and real estate agents and CEOs and lawyers, I mean, all over the place. Then I did a mastery negotiation executive education program at Harvard Law School. That one, and as I kept getting more certifications, they kept getting smaller and smaller, more tight groups with higher levels. Like the first one, you have to at least be mediating or negotiating for at least 5 years. Then it was like, okay, at least 20 years. Okay, now you have to have at least done another course. And so what was interesting was then I did one at Harvard Law School, and there was only 50 people from around the world that flew in.
Wow.
So it was very, very centralized. And like one of the guys that we had the union rep for Delta Airlines. Like he's the one that is negotiating. He's the union rep. I mean, we had some, very, very high level people. Then just last year, I did Persuasion Without Authority executive education course at Columbia Business School. And in that one, we had 35 participants from 12 different countries, 17 different industries, CEOs, COOs, CFOs. I mean, we had the Central Bank of Indonesia and the Ministry of Communication and Technology of Saudi Arabia. And we had the U.S. State Department and the U.S. Navy. I mean, we had like the who's who all around we had the CFO from CVS, and it was a really challenging high level negotiation course. What's interesting is in these courses at these high, really good Ivy League schools, when I've gotten into these courses, what's interesting, Tad, is sex, religion, politics, culture, they don't exist.
Right.
Like we're there to negotiate. And so you've got a Jew and an Arab and a Christian and an atheist and a white person and a black person and an Asian person. None of it matters. It's the coolest thing when all of your prejudices from around the world and all the things that cause a communication breakdown, they're gone, because we're all there with one central goal of, I want to become the best negotiator to take back to my company, my corporation, my country. And so again, going into it, all of those expectations, going back to even an attorney and a client, the expectations are managed. And so prejudices are left at the door. And so we're able to get together. And what was interesting was I was at Columbia Business School with people all around the world. And our second day of class was it was a Tuesday night. And that was the night where Trump and Biden were debating. Wednesday morning was a very interesting conversation in class from worldwide views about American politics at such a liberal university. But what was amazing was everybody was as respectful as you could ever imagine. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
But again, expectations were managed. Because we're not there going me against you, my culture versus your culture. I'm right, you're wrong. We're all there going, all right, we need to negotiate. How would you negotiate this? How do you learn how to negotiate this? And how can you then take that back to your home, to your business, to your culture, and be the best version of you? And that's what I always try to do as a mediator, is help like the mom and the dad. Once I'm gone and the judge is gone and the attorneys are gone and maybe a parenting coordinator is gone and maybe you're out of rehab or your breathalyzer is gone, how can I empower you and give you tools so you can still coexist without demonizing each other? That's my ex. That's father and mother. That's not my ex-husband, wife. That's my father and mother. And that's my challenge as a mediator, is to give them the tools and show them that different is okay. Just let's look at it from a different point of view and let's gain an understanding so that we're not demonizing and you're not constantly fighting, because that's no way to live life.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I want to go to one of those. I mean, that just sounds amazing.
They are really, really intensive and so neat. I mean, it's just an amazing experience. I actually did. So the founder on the program of negotiation at Harvard, two guys, William Ury and Josh Weiss. And William Ury, I've read all of his books. Amazing, amazing, amazing man. And then Josh Weiss and him, they actually negotiated the Abraham Path, which what they did, they had this idea, and both of them international negotiators. They had the idea of, all right, what is the commonality? Not what separates us, but what do we have in common between Jews and Arabs, Palestinians, and, like all of them, Iran, people from Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Turkey, like what do we all have in common? So looking through everything, they all had one commonality. You know what that was? Abraham. Gotcha. Because whether it's the Bible, whether it's the Quran, whether it's history, they all came from Abraham. Because you go all the way back to Genesis, Abraham had two sons, Ishmael, Isaac, Arab, Jew. There's your Palestinian conflict. It's a family dispute over inheritance. That's the entire thing. So what they did is they said, okay, how do we bridge these two people together? So they traced, looking at the Bible, Quran, other religious documents, historical documents. They said, okay, here's where Abraham was born, and here was his path all the way through his life, and here's where he died. Then they got the nations together and started to negotiate and said, look, all of you have this in common. This is Abraham. Let's create the Abraham path, where it's a safe place where everyone can come and celebrate together your common ancestor. And they were successful and able to do that. And so many people had been going through, would fly over and walk through this Abraham path, and they made it to help with culturalism, to help with tourism, to help, bridge people, cultures together, and also build up the area. So I found this out when I went to Harvard. I found this out, and I'm like, I want to go do the Abraham path. Well, they actually had a walk and experience Abraham path training course. I signed up for it. I was like, I'm going. You fly into Amman, Jordan, and you walk all the way. You walk 100 miles in a week and end up at Petra. And I'm like, that would be amazing. And there's 10 people. I'm like a small group of people where you walk and talk and learn negotiation skills with Josh Weiss, who was one of the men that negotiated this. And you're staying in house stays with villagers and tents and Bedouins. And I'm like, what an amazing experience. So I paid for it, got my tickets, everything. I even started training because like walking 100 miles in the desert. So I started training. I trained for almost a year, and COVID happened, shut down the world, and I did not get to go.
Oh, no.
And they have not reopened it yet. It's still not been reopened, mainly in Jordan. And so one of these days I would like to do it. Well, I got notification from them going, hey, Matthew, we've decided we're going to do a virtual walk and talk, virtual Abraham path. Would you want to would you be interested? No. And they're like, really? I'm like, no, I want to go. I want to do it virtual. And they're like, okay. They ended up reaching back out to me and they said, hey, Matthew, we're still putting this thing together. Are you sure? Would you like to go? And I'm like, no. I actually want to go and do it. Third time, they said, hey, Matthew, would you like to join an advisory board and maybe help with it? Because and I'm like, yeah, okay, that could be fun. So I ended up doing the virtual course. It was incredible, taught by Josh. And it was absolutely incredible. Gave me a just really great appreciation. Even more so now I want to go and do it.
Oh, I bet. Sounds great.
But, these different type things exist out there. And again, where you would think, okay, you could get these different cultures, these different belief systems. And what's amazing is when you get into the arena of negotiation, all of that goes out the window.
Right.
Which is just really, really neat. But one of the things, I want to ask you this, because, just with your experience and dealing both in family and criminal and stuff, one of the things that is common, you said, are people getting worse? Yet, for a certain point, how does mental health, how do you find that, dealing with high conflict, whether it's a divorce, or whether it's, even criminal, there's a whole talk right now about mental health. And we've seen, this whole shift of mental health, a lot of things that were deemed, we can only go back 10, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be locked up in an asylum. And now,
yes.
No, it's totally normal. What? How do you see, with the whole mental health and how do you try to maintain, how do you help clients, try to help maintain their mental health as you're guiding them through what they're going through?
Well, two things. First off,
for more information about my services or to schedule your mediation with me, either in person or using my iChat Mediation virtual platform built by Cisco Communications, visit me online at imediateinc.com. Call me at 561-262-9121, toll free at 877-822-1479, or email me at mbrickman@ichatmediation.com.